a Pittsburgh police official is calling out possible racism within his police department. Now, he was pictured holding a sign that has led to a lot of backlash. And this is Pittsburgh Police Chief Cameron McLay. Let's quickly take a look at the picture. He says, "I resolve to challenge racism at work, #endwhitesilence."
Okay.
Now, this...
I look at this sign, Anna. Sorry to interrupt for a second.
Sure.
And I think, who doesn't love this guy, right? He's making this effort. He's a police chief. And honestly, like, I know, I saw the headline already. I know the story, right? But I still couldn't believe that they were against this guy.
Yeah. Well, I totally am not surprised that they are against him. And
after all this time, I'm still a little naive.
Yeah. Look, what I'm always so amazed by is that cops are supposed to be the bravest people in our society, okay? They're supposed to be the toughest, the strongest. They deal with criminals on a daily basis. And they get their feelings hurt so easily.
They're the most sensitive dudes in the whole world, man. If you blow in their direction, they're like, whoa, what are you doing to me? What did you just accuse me of? I didn't accuse you of anything. Calm down, dude. He's just saying, let's end racism together.
Right.
He's not saying you're a racist. I mean, come on.
There's this weird paranoia among the cops that are always speaking out against these acts, right? These acts that acknowledge possible racism. And I feel like when you speak out like that and when you're so openly paranoid like that, it's because you're worried about your behavior.
Yeah, if somebody,
you're reflecting on your behavior.
If somebody puts up a sign that says end racism, I wouldn't reflexively go, what, you calling me a racist? Why would you think that?
Yeah, it's just strange. I think the reaction is strange. And again, you read the sign. Let's look at it again. I want to read it to you again. He's not saying all of the police officers in the Pittsburgh Police Department are racist. He just says, I resolve to challenge racism at work. And white silence, okay? So I think they thought that he was making a blanket statement. That was not his intent. So one police chief said one police officer said the following in regard to that sign. The chief is calling us racists. No, he's not. He believes the Pittsburgh Police Department is racist. No, he doesn't. This has angered a lot of officers. Yes, it has. Okay, but it has unjustifiably angered a lot of police officers because he's not making a blanket statement. He's just saying that, hey, you know what? Subconsciously, we might be treating certain groups of people differently, and maybe this is a good opportunity for us to reflect. That's all he meant by it. And so he actually wrote about this in a very, very lengthy letter to all the police officials, and I think that he did a really good job clarifying himself. And he also apologized again and again for anyone who was offended because that wasn't his intent. He says the reality of U.S. policing is that our enforcement efforts have a disparate impact on communities of color, and unconscious bias applies to how we deal with the public. Okay, so a lot of this stuff, again, we've talked about this before. A lot of our behavior is subconscious, and it's through messaging that we've gotten in the media. It's through stereotypes that we've internalized, and whether we like to believe it or not, we have bought into them. And so that's what he's referring to. He continues, the sign indicated my willingness to challenge racial problems in the workplace. I am so committed. If there are problems in the PBP related to racial injustice, I will take action to fix them. I saw no indictment of police or anyone else in this sign, but I do apologize to any of you who felt I was not supporting you. That was not my intent.
See, that's exactly right. He's saying at work in general. That's how I interpreted the sign. He's not saying like at my workplace where there's a lot of effing racists. That's not in the sign. If you read that into the sign, then again, maybe you have issues. And he's the police chief. Like if I had a sign here saying I'm committed to stopping racism at work, right? Would you then jump up and go, what are you calling me a racist?
No.
You would never think that.
No, I wouldn't think that.
You would think like, hey, we're all going to work together to make sure whatever level of racism might exist, that we combat it together.
And I feel like with every big issue, whether it's a gender issue or a racism issue or whatever it is, I think the reason why we never get anywhere with anything is because we're unwilling to see the other perspective. So here you have a cop who is willing to consider a different perspective just to make society better, and everyone's freaking out about it. We're so polarized in every way. Polarized in politics, polarized in the gender world, polarized in race, right? And as a result, it doesn't lead to any solutions. It's just a bunch of people spouting off their talking points or whatever their beliefs are, not being empathetic, not being compassionate, and so there are never solutions. We just continue to yell and fight about the same thing over and over again.
So I can give you 1,000 examples as we have throughout the show, but one example that's recent is the Tamir Rice shooting. He was a 12-year-old that had the toy gun and was shot in 2 seconds. is that on average, people make the assumption that African American kids are 4 years older than they actually are. So that leads to more punishment, usually detention, suspension at school, and sometimes, obviously, the extreme cases like Tamir Rice. Now, that doesn't mean that Pittsburgh cops are racist. It just means that's something that everybody makes an assumption on based on studies. So let's work to get beyond that. If someone recognizes that, you should be applauding them. So he tried to do the right thing here, and unfortunately, the reaction that he got in response gives you a sense that maybe he was right to tackle it in the first place, because perhaps that racism exists more than we realize in the Pittsburgh Police Department. Otherwise, why did they get so incredibly touchy about that?
Yeah. Well, you know what? A lot of props to Police Chief McLeay. He's awesome, and I'm glad that he's willing to see a different perspective, and I wish we had more people like that on both sides.